It was a cold October morning in 1997 when Daniel Reyes stood barefoot on the cracked concrete floor of a factory warehouse on the outskirts of Monterrey, Mexico. The dawn fog still clung to the air as if refusing to let go of the night, and Daniel, 31 years old, father of two, tightened his grip on the rusted clipboard in his hand. His family business, a small textile operation his father had built from nothing, was falling apart. Orders were drying up. His workers, many of whom had been with his family for decades, wore silent, hollow expressions as they clocked in. There was a wordless tension in the air, the kind that crackled like a silent storm about to break. Daniel didn't sleep the night before. He hadn't for weeks. And yet, he wasn't here to fire anyone. By 7 a.m., he called every employee, seamstresses, warehouse loaders, janitors, into the break room. A dingy, flickering lit room with plastic chairs and a single vending machine humming in the corner. They stood awkwardly, expecting cuts, maybe even closure. Instead, Daniel said something none of them had heard from a boss before. He said, "I want to know your stories." For a moment, nobody moved. Then, slowly, one hand after another went up. Maria, who folded garments for minimum wage, spoke first. Her husband had been deported last year. She worked nights to cover for both of them. Next was Jorge, the delivery driver whose son was sick with leukemia. By noon, Daniel knew every face in that factory, and more importantly, every name. What happened next would ripple beyond anything Daniel could have planned. Within weeks, production soared, not because of bonuses or stricter schedules or flashy motivational posters, but because Daniel did something almost no entrepreneur dares to do. He dismantled the invisible wall between employer and employee. Instead of giving orders, he gave out chairs, literally inviting workers to his office, asking for their input on the company's future. He learned that one machine operator, a quiet man named Raul, had designed a stitching technique at home that reduced fabric waste by nearly 15%. Daniel implemented it within a week. Sales doubled in 3 months. By the following year, the Reyes factory wasn't just surviving. It became the largest family-run textile exporter in the region. But Daniel wasn't chasing numbers. In 2004, a journalist asked him how he turned a failing business around. Daniel simply said, "I stopped treating people like workers and started treating them like family." By 2006, competitors started noticing the Reyes factory's uncanny rise. While other companies slashed wages and automated jobs, Daniel doubled down on human connection. He introduced an unheard-of policy in the industry: open book management. Every employee, from the seamstress to the janitor, could see the company's financials, profits, losses, margins. Nothing was hidden. On January 14, 2006, at exactly 3:42 p.m., Daniel called an all-hands meeting. His team, now over 300 strong, crowded into the sunlit factory yard. With a marker and a whiteboard propped on a forklift, Daniel revealed the company's quarterly earnings, down to the last peso. Then he did something that would later be written about in business journals around the world. He asked the workers how they thought the company should reinvest the profits. A 20-year-old intern suggested a child care facility for single parents on staff. It opened 2 months later. A 55-year-old floor manager proposed starting a microloan fund for employees' families. Daniel funded it himself. Productivity skyrocketed, but it wasn't just numbers. Turnover dropped to nearly zero. Absenteeism became a rarity. Workers started calling the factory La Familia. By 2008, Harvard Business Review called it the factory built on empathy. But Daniel never read the article. He was too busy attending the wedding of Jorge's son, the same boy once sick with leukemia, now fully recovered. That night, as Daniel stood in the crowd, he realized something no business course had ever taught him. Trust can't be bought. It's built, brick by invisible brick, in quiet moments no spreadsheet will ever capture. In 2011, a global recession hit the textile industry like a tidal wave. Factories shuttered, competitors folded, investors panicked. The Reyes factory? It kept its doors open without a single layoff, not because Daniel pumped money into it, but because his employees did. One by one, they offered to cut their own hours, share shifts, even take temporary pay reductions, not by force, by choice. The same people who once feared losing their jobs now fought to protect them. By 2013, when the market recovered, the Reyes business wasn't just intact, it had grown. New clients, global partnerships, and a waiting list of workers hoping to join La Familia. But perhaps the real twist in Daniel's story came not on a balance sheet, but on a rainy evening in March 2015. Daniel, now a quietly respected figure in Monterrey, walked into the factory's break room, the same one where 18 years earlier he'd first asked for their stories. This time, the workers had gathered for him. A surprise. On the table sat a simple wooden plaque, hand-carved by Raul, the machine operator who once saved them 15% on fabric. It read, "Empires built on fear collapse. Empires built on trust last forever." Daniel didn't say a word. He didn't need to. Outside, the rain hammered the factory roof. Inside, a man who believed productivity was born not from pressure, but from empathy, had quietly built an empire. And not a single brick of it was his alone. Before you leave, here are 5 lessons from Daniel's story, and how you can apply them in your own life and work. 1. Trust isn't given, it's earned, brick by brick. Invest in real relationships. Ask people about their lives before you ask for their output. 2. Leadership is listening, not commanding. Next time you face a challenge, ask for input, even from those you least expect to have the answer. 3. Culture beats strategy every time. Focus on building a work environment people want to protect and not one they fear losing. 4. Transparency multiplies loyalty. Share your goals openly. Let others see your process. The right people will rally around you. 5. Empathy isn't soft. It's your sharpest tool. In every tough conversation, lead with understanding. You'll get further, faster. And if you made it this far, you're exactly the kind of person this channel was built for. So before you go, hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe. Because some stories don't just inspire, they rewrite the way you lead, work, and grow.